Chapter 1. The Kid in the Shopping Cart. November 8th, 2001. Certain moments in your life are supposed to define who you are as a person. But that's simply not true. You are, by your very definition, indefinable. So on one cool November afternoon, with ideas of clouds dangling over the junior high school parking lot, I made a conscious decision to tell three men in ski masks a story. I thought it was one of those moments. I reasoned with myself that my only conceivable talent is storytelling, that my ability to weave a yarn would compensate for my wispy arms. Ruddy Creek was a rural community outside of my hometown of Texarkana, which could almost be considered mid-sized, I guess. There was some crime. We even had a car bombing that was rumored to be mob-related and made it onto one of those crime shows on A&E. But it wasn't exactly a Scorsese movie. Ruddy Creek was where delusional white people moved when their paranoia led them to believe that the entire city of Texarkana was one sideways glance away from cutting pieces from their necks with broken crack pipes. So, whereas in Dallas or Memphis, 3 to 4 hours in either direction of us, masked men might signal you to cross to the other side of the street. In Ruddy Creek, Arkansas, 3 masked men in the parking lot of a junior high school filled me with more wonder than terror. Not to mention the fact that, nestled as we are in the ass crack of the butt cheeks of Texas and Arkansas, our average annual snowfall is reported in centimeters to make it sound less embarrassing. The overpowering thought cycling through my head at the time was, I wonder where they found ski masks. I jingled my keys in one hand and tried to smirk. Once, I heard about this kid who wanted to prove to his friends something. I don't even know what it was. Maybe he didn't either. But anyway, he rolled himself down this big hill, cliff really, in a shopping cart, plummeted into a lake and broke his leg in a couple of places. The 3 of them cocked their heads at me like puppies. They all wore Letterman jackets. High school kids. Ruddy Creek Independent School District had exactly 3 pieces of property. A small district office, a building inexplicably built to house only 6th graders across the railroad tracks, and a compound that included everything else, from kindergarten to elementary to junior high and up through high school. The smallest did the talking. "What the hell are you talking about? Give me your bag." I slid a hand over my computer bag. I was the only teacher at the junior high with a laptop issued by the district. I was young enough to use one. I eased it off my shoulder. So this kid, he grew up. He got married and still always trying to prove something to his parents, his wife, his bosses. Something. He never outran it. I started easing the laptop out of the bag. The 2 bigger ones took several steps in my direction. The mouthpiece shook his head. "The whole bag." I knelt onto one knee with the bag out in front of me. I stopped prying my laptop out and frowned at him. "It's just papers. There's nothing else worth stealing." My response came in the form of a heel stomped into my lower cheekbone. My head reeled back, sending a shock of pain down one side of my neck. My glasses somersaulted off my face and slid under my car. I braced myself on one elbow, letting the gravel burn into the bone. I heard a voice over me. "Let it go, dude." I realized my hand was tangled in the strap. Realized too late. The smaller one cursed, took 3 shuffling strides, and landed a weak cross on my jaw and nose. I folded into a fetal position and took somewhere between 3 and 6 pointy kicks to my midsection and chest. One of them stomped on my ear, causing a burning cold explosion, which I believe kept me from passing out. I could hear the muffled sound of their footsteps fading. Laughter. The roar of a truck followed by a spray of gravel all around me. Then nothing but the swooshing pulse of my blood stumbling its way through my ear. I don't remember much about how I got there, but 10 or 15 minutes later, I was sitting in the high school nurse's office with my scratch glasses in my hand, surrounded by the Drew, the principal of the junior high, Johnny Nuntz, the district's 1 security officer, and Brandon, the tech guy. The Drew and I had grown close enough over my first 3 months of teaching, but I only knew the other 2 maybe to speak to. Johnny Nuntz had issued my parking pass, a task he took far too seriously for a gravel parking lot. Before the mugging, his only words to me had been, "Don't block in the bush hog." To which I replied, "I would never do that. Never again." I got the impression that he didn't like me. And Brandon, he delivered my laptop when it came in. He and I had talked about Super Mario Kart and the 7 reasons he believes Mr. Pibb is better than Dr. Pepper. For the record, I agreed with 5 of them, but it wasn't what you would call a budding friendship. "And they were all 3 male, you say?" Johnny Nuntz had a high-pitched, nasally voice, which, drawling out of his meaty jaw, made him a regular cartoon character. I pressed the ice pack against my eye and my tongue against my lip, which had somehow gotten split during all the kicking. Crap, I hope so. They reeked of brute and had hair on their knuckles. One of them had on green Wranglers. "All 3 in leather jackets?" He ticked off points in a notepad with a tiny golf pencil. I nodded. The 2 bigger ones were a touch over 6 feet, maybe pushing 200 pounds. Pretty solid. One leaner than the other, but they were both the athletic type. The one that did the talking was a few inches shorter, close to my build, but maybe not quite as delicate. He sounded blonde. Johnny tapped the end of his pencil on the pad. "Yeah, I got that. How do you sound blonde?" I looked at him and shrugged. "I don't know. He just did. He sounded like a douche. Blonde." The Drew nodded and pointed. "Like the guy in the Karate Kid, the one in the skeleton outfit?" We all nodded in unison, and Johnny wrote it down. He flipped a page. "And you say they wanted your bag? Adamant about that? Not the computer, but the whole damn bag?" I massaged a rib and winced. "All of it. Yeah, I assume the computer is what they're after." The Drew made a clicking sound with his tongue. "Nope." I looked up at him. "No?" "Nope." Brandon shook his round little head. "Nope." I eyed Johnny because it was his turn. He cocked his head. "Doesn't much look like it." The Drew slapped Johnny on the knee. "Johnny Nuts here found your computer in the drainage ditch by the highway." I lowered my ice pack. "Oh, well that's good, right?" They all shook their heads and offered, "Nope, nope, and not so much," respectively. The Drew added, "Smashed all to hell." Shit. The ice pack returned to my face, alternating between jaw and eye. Johnny kept flipping pages. "Did you have anything else of value in the bag, Mr. Mazer?" "Some essays, from first and second period. Nothing else, really. Smashed, like for good smashed." The Drew pointed his head toward Brandon, who spread his chubby fingers out and wiggled them. "Man, it's like in a million pieces?" The Drew nodded. "At least." "Even if I could fix it?" Johnny waved his pencil at us. "Evidence." Brandon nodded, his round body jiggling. "Yeah, so even if I could?" Johnny returned to his notes. "You can't." Brandon shrugged. "Yeah, even if I could." The Drew played with the whistle hanging around his neck. "But hey, tell him the good news." Brandon looked from the Drew to me. "Insured." "Insured?" The Drew punched Brandon in the side. "Tell him like you told me. He says to me, 'Maze dog,' he says, 'don't you worry. We got those things insured like a what, Brandon? Tell him." Brandon grinned. "Like a motherfucker." The Drew made his whistle do a slide fall. "Insured like a motherfucker." I nodded and looked to Johnny. "Are we done?" He flipped back and forth through his notes. "Almost. Did you say anything to him?" "Like what?" "Like anything. Did you talk to them?" "I don't know that I talked to them exactly." "What did you say?" "I sort of tried to distract them, I guess." Johnny nodded. "Making goofy noises and stuff?" "What? No, I tried telling them a story." Johnny stopped writing and looked up at me. They all looked at me. I buried my face in my ice pack. "Like what kind of story?" I shook my head. I don't know. Well, no kind of story. Just a story. The Drew spit out a rolling laugh. What the hell are you thinking, Maze Dog? I don't know. I wasn't thinking. I think I felt like it might be one of those moments that, like define who you are as a person or something. The Drew laughed some more and slapped Brandon on the back. What do you say to that, Dog? Brandon stood slack-jawed, shaking his head. Damn, I hope you were wrong. They all three laughed. Johnny wrote it down. I don't blame him. Can I go home now? The Drew tried to shake off the giggles. Sure, man. Of course. Go home and get some rest. Take a week or so. We'll figure all this out. I set the ice pack on the desk and patted at my eye with the tip of a finger. A week? I don't have those days built up. I've got to save what I have for when the baby comes. Brandon stuttered. So tomorrow? You're coming tomorrow, looking like that. The Drew and Johnny shook their heads. No go, Maze Dog. Bad idea. What? Why? I'll have a couple of bruises, no big deal. The Drew puckered his face into a sour expression. Lots of questions there, Ellis. What happened to your face? Who did that to your face? Did somebody mess up your face? Brandon pointed at his words and nodded. Fucking circus, man. You don't want to deal with that, Maze Dog. It'll be a, what'd you call it, Brando? Fucking circus. Circus. The Drew handed me back the ice pack. Take the days.